Well, good morning and welcome to our special meeting of Wednesday, August 20th for LAFCo. And we'll start out with the call to order. And roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry, we'll do call to order and then flag salute. Please join us. We're there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and now we'll do roll call, please.
Okay. We have Commissioner Weinreb.
It's Elaine Weinreb. Is that what you
Yeah.
meant? Okay. Yes, I'm here.
Commissioner Benzanelli.
Here.
Commissioner Nicolini.
Here.
Commissioner Kelly.
Absent.
Commissioner Matthews.
Present.
Commissioner Bushnell.
Good morning.
Chair Madrone.
Present.
And do we have alternate Commissioner Wilson?
Absent.
Alternate Commissioner Garnes?
Absent.
Alternate Commissioner Couch?
Absent.
And alternate Commissioner Johnson?
Absent.
All right, thank you. Looks like we have a quorum.
Great, thank you very much. And with that, we'll go ahead to public comment, item number 4. Members of the public may address the commission concerning non-agenda items during this time. Please note that the commission is not permitted to discuss or take action on items not on the agenda. Is there any public comment here today? Seeing none from the audience. Anything on Zoom? Does not appear so. Okay, we'll close public comment and go on to our number 5 consent calendar. And these are routine in nature, and the only item we have is the regular meeting notes for May 21st. Do any commissioners have a desire to poll the consent item?
I'll make a motion to approve the May 21st, 2025 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Great, we have a motion by Matthews and a second by Nicolini to approve, and we can do just a voice vote. Is that okay? Yeah, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, and on to number 6, which is our big item for this meeting, and that is a public hearing item. And again, we have opportunity for the public to address the commission on this at appropriate time. And all we have on this item is reconsideration of Neeland Fire Protection District Goodwill annexation. And so, Colette, would you like to take us through this item, please?
I will. Thank you. All right. So today's hearing is to consider a request for reconsideration of the Commission's May 21st action approving the Neeland Fire Protection District's Goodwill annexation and associated sphere of influence amendment. And this was adopted via Resolution 2503. The reconsideration request has been submitted by legal counsel for Humboldt Redwood Company, and we do have Steve Johnson on Zoom with us. We also have Lindsay Green, president of Neeland Fire Protection District, with us. The request for reconsideration centers on the inclusion of 17 Humboldt Redwood Company owned parcels, most of which are classified as commercial timberlands located within the state responsibility area. HRC asserts that under Health and Safety Code 13811 and the Forest Practice Act, local fire districts lack jurisdiction over commercial timberlands, and therefore Neeland Fire cannot include these lands in its annexation or levy local taxes against them. At the May hearing, staff did discuss and explain that CAL FIRE retains jurisdiction for wildland fire suppression within SRA. However, local fire districts remain responsible for any structural fire protection, emergency medical response, and rescue services. In practice, Neeland Fire is dispatched to and provides these services throughout the annexation area. Calls such as heavy equipment fire Medical emergencies, vehicle accidents, and rescues do not distinguish between undeveloped agriculture or forest lands and TPZ or timber protection zone parcels owned by industrial timber companies. Regardless of land classification, Neeland Fire Protection District is the local agency with local jurisdiction to respond. Inclusion of some TPZ parcels within the annexation boundary was necessary to establish logical contiguous service boundaries and avoid the creation of irregular islands or service gaps. Many public roads and rights-of-way traverse TPZ lands, and excluding such parcels would undermine clarity and efficiency both for local service delivery, emergency response, and boundary administration. In November 2024, Neeland voters approved Measure D, a special tax measure that repealed and replaced prior district taxes. And Measure Z specifically incorporated a contiguous parcel exemption to reduce the tax burden on large landowners with multiple undeveloped parcels, including industrial timber company owned parcels. This exemption ensures that undeveloped lands are not taxed parcel by parcel, while developed parcels with structural improvements remain subject to the tax at a higher rate, reflecting the district's actual service responsibilities. The tax structure therefore balances and aligns cost commensurate with the level of structural and emergency response demand rather than imposing duplicative or disproportionate charges on resource lands. HRC's request relies on case law, including Mendocino Redwood Company versus County of Mendocino in 2019, a case in which the Court of Appeal held that commercial timberlands classified as state responsibility area lands could not be lawfully included within a fire district or taxed for under Health and Safety Code 13811. This ruling is significant but narrow, and I do want to say it's not part of any LAFCo proceeding. While it invalidated taxes imposed on commercial timberlands in that case, it did not prohibit local districts from providing or funding non-wildland services specifically, such as structural fire protection, medical response, or rescue services within SRA lands. The central challenge for the Commission in evaluating the Neeland annexation reconsideration is the lack of clarity and consistency in state law governing local fire district jurisdiction over commercial timberlands located in the SRA. For the Commission, this creates policy and legal tension. The legal reality is that courts have interpreted 13811 as a barrier to including or taxing commercial timberlands in SRAs. The practical reality is excluding these timberlands risk leaving large areas without local service coverage and continues to place the tax burden on local taxpayers and residents to fund these services. In considering these lands do generate emergency calls for service, for which local fire districts are the first responders. Excluding these parcels would result in fragmented, irregular boundaries, as we see with this request, inconsistent with LAFCO's statutory mandate for promoting logical, efficient, and equitable service areas. This ambiguity leaves LAFCO in the difficult position. In the absence of statutory clarity, there will be continued uncertainty in counties like Humboldt and Mendocino, where LAFCO will not be able to address local fire services through annexation, formation, and consolidations, where we're trying to address the gap in services and bring all developed areas within a district. And in some instances, we need to bring in undeveloped lands as well. So the options for the Commission today is to deny the reconsideration request, reaffirming Resolution 2503, approve with amendment, excluding all HRC parcels except for the developed parcel. So there is one parcel, it's APN 314186002, that has structures. It is improved, and we are not recommending that that get excluded. And then the third option is continuing this matter up to 35 days for further deliberation. And I'm available for questions.
Great, thank you for that thorough and concise explanation. In this case, contiguous parcels were treated as one, is that correct? So that rather than tax every single, there's 17 parcels, I think you said, rather than tax all 17, what's the number of actual taxation with the consolidated ones?
It's a good question. There's different areas where HRC parcels are together. So let me look kind of. There's probably 1, 2, 3, 4. There would be five
total parcels.
Areas, or for purposes of taxation, 5 parcels.
Well, that's a significant reduction from 17, isn't it? Yeah.
Correct.
Absolutely. Okay, well, Commissioner questions of the staff. Commissioner Niccolini.
Thank you. So I take it Ryan was consulted on what you just read to us, right? It seems like there was some Ryan narrative. Yeah, okay. So my question is, so it'd be nice to see, I guess, the map of what the case law was based on in Mendocino, because I feel like I want clarity. Did they have public easement roads through that land as well? Or was it very analogous, or was it very different? Was it like a big chunk of, just timber harvest land without public roads, without response need, or was it very similar to what we're facing here? Is that something you can answer?
I don't know. It's the Albion Little River area, and so it's again a coastal, includes a lot of forest lands.
Yeah.
I don't know the specifics with regard to roads and kind of how these TPZ or commercial timberlands are dispersed with developed areas within that district. But my understanding is the fire district had increased their special tax, and it included, taxation of commercial timberland or undeveloped parcels, and so that's what was disputed.
And Commissioner Niccolini, I could say that analysis, that level of analysis, wasn't part of the court's opinion. It was these are commercial timberlands.
Oh, okay.
And health and safety code prohibits their inclusion in a district. It was surface level analysis as to that provision.
Okay. So I guess I'm trying to tease out if there'd be a distinguishing difference, but it sounds like it doesn't matter. It was pretty black and white. I mean, are we going to be challenged on this and lose, I guess is my question. Can an opinion be rendered on that?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer at this point. Yeah. The health and safety code provision, that issue is not very well drafted. There are some ambiguities in the statute. In the Mendocino case, those ambiguities were resolved in favor of Mendocino Redwood Company. And it is case law within our district, appellate district. And so, we would have to deal with the decision there, which held that, these types of parcels could not be included within a fire district.
Thank you.
Supervisor Bushnell and then Weinreb.
Mendocino Redwood challenged that down there, right?
Correct.
And won.
Correct.
Okay. And then if I wanted to ask, because SPI has similar lands up in Fruitland, and they're not part of the fire district, but they agreed with the fire department to do a monetary amount separate. And I'm wondering if Nealon has talked to HRC about that.
I just want to say thank you for making time for a special meeting, first of all. I really
Microphone? At the base?
thank you. I think you heard that, but thank you for making time for a special meeting. I really appreciate that. Yes, I was in communication with both their legal counsel and with Bob Mertz, who's the CEO of Humboldt and Mendocino, and My suggestion was, we're a small district. We're not interested in being in the position that Mendocino was in terms of being sued for back taxes. And, we can elect not to tax commercial timberlands. It would be wonderful if we could proceed with your parcels intact as a logical boundary, because we're in this very difficult position of, logical boundaries on the LAFCo side, no commercial timberlands, not particularly well defined in the statute. And after several back and forths with Bob, he said it seems very, as you said, black and white. And so commercial timberlands need to be excluded, our commercial timberlands.
And did you ask him, have you responded to fires in that area, or have you responded in that area?
Yes, many times, to their lands for both medical and fire.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So there was no interest on their part to pay a separate fee like in Mendocino County?
No, there was no. I think what it really comes down to is the statute, in his opinion, is black and white. They cannot be included and they cannot be taxed.
I'm wondering if you specifically asked whether he would be willing, if Humboldt Redwood Company would be willing to do a monetary donation to the fire department. And I understand the black and white and that they want their lands excluded. And it is, I think it sets precedent for a lot of things in throughout Humboldt County and just timberlands in general. And I understand his thoughts, but I'm wondering if you discussed, like we're the first responders, we do, service your lands. If there's an accident, I'm wondering if that was discussed.
It was, yes. And he did respond with, we try to support departments like yours in other ways, such as donations. For example, they donated the firehouse land to us, which is about an acre, I think. So that was the position. There was no specific discussion of can we have a separate agreement for Nealon Fire? That didn't happen, but we definitely discussed the ways in which we have served them, the ways in which they have supported us, and no concrete. Because for us, having to delay this annexation for now a full fiscal year is an enormous challenge for us. And so I was really hoping we could come to some sort of an agreement that sets precedent in a positive way for both LAFCo and for us, Nealon Fire, and Humboldt Redwood in terms of the county. I mean, Humboldt, Delnor, Trinity Lake, it's a huge challenge to have these Swiss cheese districts.
Yeah, SPIs have these same problems in the Fruitland area, and they're adamant as well. Yeah. And I do understand. And they just did it actually in Sproul Creek as well with Green Diamond, and I do understand their thoughts. But thank you for answering my questions.
Yep.
So just a quick question. Down in Mendocino County, maybe you don't know this, but did it create a Swiss cheese situation for them? Do you know, Colette?
I actually don't know if there was a detachment. I don't know the outcome of that. I did reach out to the executive officer at Mendocino LAFCo, and she was fully unaware of it. So I don't feel like it went back to LAFCo for detachment. So maybe just the back taxes were paid and they can no longer direct charge those parcels. But yeah, I'm unaware if there was a detachment.
Yeah, because that's curious. You said that it didn't go through LAFCo, so there was no appeal of the annexation process, but they just simply took it straight to court in regards to the code, I guess. Yeah, okay. So I've got Commissioner Weinreb in the queue, and then back to Commissioner Nicolini. There you go.
Okay. Well, I'm certainly no attorney, but it seems to me that the contradiction is in with the state law itself. And I don't see how at this level we can deal with this contradiction between the state law saying that the big timber companies do not have to pay into this fund, and the state law also saying that LAFCO's obligation is to avoid islanding. And I don't see how this can be resolved at any level other than at a state court level.
Commissioner Bushnell.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
I was
Commissioner
next, yeah.
Nicolini
Well,
and then Bushnell.
Perfect setup for my question. I just want to make sure I'm clear on something. It seems to me like we're if we decide to reject this request, that we're deciding to try and establish new case law. Is that an accurate assessment, Ryan? Like we believe there's merits to arguing this that are different than Mendocino, and that we could possibly get a new case law establishment that would change the playing field. Is that true?
I think that would likely be the result. Certainly, it would be up to HRC in this case to file suit and challenge the commission's rejection of the reconsideration proposal. And all indications are, at least from the letter, that they would pursue that. But that remains to be seen.
Yeah. Okay. And then I had a second question. This is we excluded BLM lands when we established our CSD on the peninsula, specifically because you can't tax federal lands, and that's pretty well established. So we build them just like we'd bill a plumber. Like if we respond to BLM lands, we build them just like if they called a plumber out. So is that a possible model for, could you just bill them for engine time, staff time, hourly rate, standard state? Thank you for.
Yeah, we have like a cost recovery resolution, so we could do that. We also, if we are on site for more than, I think it's 3 hours, we get paid by CAL FIRE also, because they are SRA lands, so.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Bushnell?
So I just want to clarify that it's not just big timber companies. It's any TPZ lands that are, it could be a smaller ranch, and those are exempt as well from their SRA lands, and so they are exempt from this kind of consolidation. So it's not just big timber. It is not just these big like HRC and SPI. It could be my ranch. It could be anybody's ranch. It really sets precedent for in the future. And working lands, you have to, that's how you make your living. And it is hard. It's hard when you have extra taxation. And I'll just reference myself. I don't have the money sometimes like big timberlands, but it is not just subject to big timberlands. It's a zoning issue on lands.
Thanks for that clarification. And any other questions, comments from the commissioners?
I have one more question for you, if that's okay, Steve.
Yes, please.
I'm wondering, did you involve your county supervisor with discussions with HRC?
I did not involve Mike with discussions. He was in the loop. He knew what was being discussed, but it was a fairly quick turnaround.
Yeah.
The letter came, I think, a couple weeks before we had to make a bunch of decisions, so it was all very quick.
Right. Okay. Sometimes it can help, and I know it was very quick, but sometimes if you get a sit-down meeting with, Bob is the head, but there's John Anderson that runs the Scotia, like this portion of it, and so sometimes that can help if you can just have a meeting and say, these are our concerns. This is why, we're a small fire department. We really depend on funding, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes that's very helpful to have your county supervisor there.
Yeah, I think Colette and my heads were just spinning. Like, can we recover from this? And yeah.
Thank you.
And Ryan's.
Commissioner Nicolini?
Thank you. Sorry, and just as I consider one of the options, which was to continue this, is there a need to have more time to do more research from a legal standpoint about our prospects of success, when it is challenged?
The one thing we can do, if you do continue, we can hold a closed session and in a confidential setting discuss litigation prospects. We can have a more candid conversation in closed session. That would be something we could do.
Just so we'd be more well-informed about what that looks like. Can I ask a follow-up question? Is there any, I feel like we've already, sorry, sometimes I forget, but I feel like, is there any will to try and change this law? I mean, like, is Cal LAFCo ever looking at that? Is this an issue for other LAFCos besides ours? I mean, how, is there support outside of this small area that we could turn to?
My understanding is that We have looked at this in the past. We have even put together a legislative proposal for the California Special Districts Association. I think we even reached out to LAFCo. At that level, we were told that that they couldn't take it. It's not something that they could bring forward as part of their kind of like annual legislative proposals. It would really take state representatives to bring this forward. And so I think there's an opportunity at the county level to keep this on the legislative platform and to see if there's interest in supporting some legislative reform. But it would take a lot of work, and it would need to be likely something that the county wants to support with staff time. And so.
Commissioner Bushnell?
So, I mean, realistically, though, doing that, CAL FIRE they have a lot to say about this, correct? And so do landowners. And so it's not a simple issue of legislation and we think this is the right thing to do. It's going to be, it's pretty dicey. And CAL FIRE has, I've talked with them and they have a lot to say about this and what their response areas are. And so do the landowners. And from my experience, it's not that they don't want to pay or contribute to the volunteer fire departments because they are very grateful to all those departments, but it really sets precedent on large tracts of land. And some of those lands are not, it makes it sometimes not feasible for business. And that seems to be their issue. It's not the support that they don't want to support the departments. And so I don't think it's a cut and dried issue or just the county needs to take it on and change legislation. I think it would be a very big uphill fight. Just my thoughts as I've been, I've dealt with this for quite a few years.
Commissioner Penzanelli?
So, first of all, I don't know what an SRA is.
State responsibility area.
State response area. So,
Responsibility.
State responsibility area. So I'm trying to wrap my head around this. What this means is if you have a small ranch or a TPZ zone and lightning strikes and fire breaks out, then you have been excluded because you do not pay taxes, or you're just excluded from the tax part, but the fire department still, of course, has a responsibility to respond. I cannot imagine a fire department driving around with maps that say this is zoned a certain way, so we're not going to go fight a fire there. So regardless, the service is going to be provided. You just don't have to pay for it.
So you as a fire department do not have to respond. You're not obligated. Most volunteer fire departments are not going to say no, and then they can charge the landowner if it's out of their area. So they can recover funds. CAL FIRE is responsible for state responsibility areas, SRA areas, and they're going to be the lead agency on those. And so if you have a ranch or a timber zoned land and you get a lightning strike, most likely the volunteer fire departments are going to respond, and then CAL FIRE is also going to respond, and they will be the lead agency. And the volunteer fire departments do get paid. They can charge and get paid back for that. It's just not in their service area.
But I do want to, there's even more of a distinction. So CAL FIRE has jurisdiction for wildland fire protection and state responsibility area. And yes, local fire departments, if they are helping with that wildland fire response, they get paid after 3 hours, I believe. And so they do get reimbursed in supporting that response. However, CAL FIRE has no jurisdiction over community fire protection. So that's structure fire protection, rescues, vehicle accidents. Those are local jurisdiction. There are still local jurisdictional calls for service in these areas. And that's what we're saying there is a distinction. And there is should be service area for local jurisdictional response in these areas and their response area. And it's appropriate for these lands to be in this annexation area just because of the makeup of the community and having irregular boundaries and having roads going through these areas, public roads, having response. So it is appropriate. And I feel very strongly about that.
Commissioner Weinreb and then Nicolini.
Yeah. Who would pay the volunteer organizations? You mentioned that they would get paid after 3 hours. Who would be responsible for paying
The
that?
state. Again, for wildland. And then the state too supports local response, when they can. So it is definitely, there's a mutual aid relationship between the state and local jurisdiction. There's no doubt. But ultimately, these districts need to be able to get reimbursed for the local services that they are providing. And I think yes, they could keep these properties out and direct bill based on a fee schedule, but that is an administrative burden, and there's still a need to, I think, be able to find some resolution for taxes, for placing special taxes that is based on local response and not duplicative wildland services. And we do, Neeland worked really hard to get their special tax both updated and include this contiguous parcel exemption, and did the outreach, overwhelmingly received 2/3 voter approval within the existing district. They worked with the annexation area residents to make sure that this contiguous parcel exemption was fair and equitable, and the community supports this overwhelmingly. There are some that don't want to be taxed or don't want to be part of the annexation area, but overwhelmingly there is support. And the contiguous parcel exemption does reduce that burden on undeveloped lands to an extent that is fair and equitable.
Commissioner Nicolini, then Benzanelli, and then Bushnell.
So I have an idea
Got a
forming
cue.
in my head, but it's very nascent, so I apologize if it sounds stupid when it comes out. But could we establish a zone of service for these lands that basically has a reduced taxation to only cover medical aid calls and structure fires and exclude wildland fires, so that, because they really are the lead agency just on those types of calls. And if it was a reduced tax, it might be more palatable to the large landowners, and it might be a compromise solution that we could look at establishing that case for the future.
I mean, that's ultimately what they're trying to do with the contiguous parcel exemption. Right. It's a reduced tax. It's so I hear what you're saying. I mean, there's the opportunity to establish or form county service areas, throughout these lands. And county service areas don't have this specific provision. Neither do community service districts. They can provide fire services, and there's not any particular mention of this in the CSD law or county service area law. But again, it's a challenging makeup of all of these jurisdictions and areas and service areas that we are just trying to avoid this patchwork.
But you could have contiguous boundaries and areas, but just have different zones of service. And I'm almost suggesting it more as just to help establish that new legal precedent that, yes, they shouldn't be taxed twice for wildland fire service. Like, I can't disagree with that, and I can't disagree with the points that Commissioner Bushnell is making. But so that might help move it forward and be successful if we are to, that we're really just taxing for very specifically different services than they're currently getting from the state.
Well, and Commissioner Nicolini, the uphill battle that we're facing is that the statute says that these lands cannot be included within a district, right? It's not about they can't be taxed or they have to be taxed on a lesser basis. The statute talks about inclusion within the boundaries of the district, and that's the uphill battle that we face. With this statute.
So we're dealing with a really poorly written law, basically. Ambiguous and unclear and not thinking it through,
Okay, Commissioner Benzanelli and then Bushnell.
So that's good clarification, because after reading this, my understanding was that we just have some large landowners that don't want to pay taxes, which seems like that's what's bringing this up. But the ambiguity is in the language that says it cannot be included in the district, which makes me feel like this is actually a question for LAFCo, and that no, because it seems like too big of a fight for us alone.
Yeah.
So that was point one, because it does feel like the argument here today is about some people not wanting to pay taxes. My next question is sort of a legal question, but it seems like it's different for LAFCo, is that if we have a commissioner that's being directly impacted financially for this, by this, isn't that the definition of a conflict of interest? No, I know, but if it becomes, this would be a precedent-setting case, so it would impact the law.
Any TPZ landowners, I think is what she's referring
Yeah,
to.
I think that's up to Ryan, but I don't personally, unless it's taken to law and legislation has changed, it's not impacting me at all.
Yeah, it's a statute of general applicability. No different than zoning ordinances that would be approved on a jurisdiction-wide basis. So,
Okay, and back to Commissioner Bushnell.
Thank you. My question is for Ryan. If we, so we have an opportunity that we can say we're going to uphold this, right? And then so our LAFCo commissioners, if it goes to court, are we liable?
are you asking in your personal capacity?
Well, as a commissioner, if I make a decision that's against state law and we uphold this and we say go forward with it, then we could be named in a suit, or
You may be named as a party to the suit, but this would be official acts within the course and scope of your role as a commissioner. So you'd be sued in your official capacity. You'd be defended by counsel for LAFCo and indemnified in that respect. And this would be a mandamus action, not an action for monetary damages.
I understand that. I just wanted to know that, you know, if we make a decision that goes against state law, then we're liable. I mean, we would be, it's not monetary, but we could be definitely named in a suit.
You may be named. In addition to the body itself, the district would be named as well. Again, these are determinations for the plaintiff to make as to who they name and whether they even file suit. And the question about whether or not it's against state law would ultimately be the question for the court to decide. And, you know, that would be answered in the course and scope of the litigation. But as elected officials, when a suit is brought, you're often sued in your official capacity. And it's not a personal suit against you. So
Correct.
your personal assets wouldn't be.
To finish my questions, the next ones are for Colette. So today we have a decision, and I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself, but I want it to be very clear in my head. So we can go forward and uphold the Neelan Fire annexation, correct?
Correct.
Or we can continue for 35 days, but they're currently not getting any tax base, right? Because this has been disputed. Is that correct?
Correct. It's not, the annexation area is not effective. We still need to complete the protest proceedings, which had to be put on hold. And then ultimately we need to record the certificate of completion for the final annexation.
And because it's being contested, we had to do this, and so they're on hold.
Yes, the annexation is on hold.
So if the commissioners decide to exclude the HRC properties, would the annexation go forward with what the rest of the areas, and they then could start getting their tax base? And is it retroactive?
If we proceeded today with approving the reconsideration request. So we would be going through, next steps would be completing the protest hearing for the revised annexation. then recording the annexation, and then we would submit the final boundary to the state Board of Equalization, and then the tax rate areas would change not until likely the 26-27 tax roll, and then the district could levy once the tax rate areas. So it could be a year. We would need to file with the State Board of Equalization before December 1st of this year for them to tax next year. And if we miss the December 1st, then it will be 2 years before they can tax for the annexation area.
Okay. My next question is, I'm sorry, but my next question is, if we go ahead and we say we're going to continue as the boundaries are, and a suit comes, then does that hold up the annexation longer?
It likely would, yes.
Okay, so then my question is for you. What does Nealon Fire, what are your thoughts?
That I want to cry.
Yeah.
No. So what we're looking at from Humboldt Redwood, we've been taxing them because this case law is relatively recent. With the contiguous parcel exemption in district right now, I think it's about $320 that we would be taxing Humboldt Redwood. With the annexation, that bumps up to about $600. It's a very small amount of money for us. So for us, the stakes are very high to go 2 years without any taxation at all. And I think this is a really big decision for Humboldt County, in terms of starting the Swiss cheese movement, So my thoughts are we would love to have annexation in place as soon as possible. That's a really big deal for us financially. And the loss of revenue from those parcels is minor.
And so I'm going to ask you, and so I do want to say that I don't think that it's anything about money for Humboldt Redwood. I think it's a precedent thing for them, and I haven't spoken to them about it. I'm going to ask you, do you want this commission to exclude them and continue forward with your annexation so you can start getting your money, or do you want us to include them? Hopefully they don't file suit and you can start getting your money.
For myself, for Nealon Fire, I would prefer to exclude them and move forward.
Thank you.
That's myself, not on behalf of the board.
Okay. Is there anybody else here from the board that you're with her? Okay. So thank you.
Yeah, it was mentioned that there are other areas throughout the county, and I agree with you. It is about the precedent. Between Blue Lake and Willow Creek, we're dealing with this very issue, about the ability for Willow Creek and Blue Lake to expand their districts and annex and receive a bunch of money through assessment, because the vast majority of that area is either U.S. Forest Service land, federal land, or timber company land. And so the idea that if we excluded all those, it definitely puts a hamper on, has delayed any solutions for us trying to expand into those areas. And Willow Creek in particular and Blue Lake are now saying, we're going to stop responding, to those areas. And to be frank, in those areas, the vast majority of calls are medical on Highway 299, which I have always felt is really a state responsibility, that the state needs to step up and provide that medical coverage on the highways like Highway 36, Highway 96, Highway 299, et cetera. But we're not there at this point. So we keep having a lot of discussions with Colette and staff, as well as Sibel Emmett at the county with the fire ad hoc, and Michelle and I have been privy to a lot of those discussions as well. So this is a really big issue, but at the same time, the hardship on the district, if we uphold the annexation decision to not exclude, means a year, maybe 2 years before you start getting any resources. And as you just said, I think your preference would be to exclude TPZ lands from the annexation and to move forward with the rest of it, because in this case, you're talking about $300 and versus thousands of dollars not coming in the meantime, There's also the question of cost to LAFCo. I mean, when I look at our budget, I don't see any big line item there for legal costs. Frankly speaking, we have a very austere budget. At the county, we get sued all the time, and while we may not have the money, we either go ahead with it, or we settle, or we do whatever. And it's the budget is a consideration for us at the county for sure, but I think it's a very different situation here at LAFCo in regards to where does that come from out of our budget to do any kind of legal wrangling. In my time, and I don't know, Troy, you've been here the longest, but have we ever had any big legal wranglings? No, so that's why it's not a big budget item probably, because it's just not typical that we end up in that place. It gets me thinking a little bit about the whole idea of continuing this. We have 35 days to make a decision, and one option would be we have the September 16th meeting, which is within the 35-day period. Should we have a closed session and talk more frankly about all the issues that really aren't appropriate to talk about here in an open session? Like what are our chances of winning or not winning? I mean, that kind of stuff is really closed session kinds of discussions, I think. But I don't know. I'm along with whatever the preference of this board is. But real quickly before I come back to commissioners, you had a comment.
Yeah, thanks for giving me space for that. I think I may not have been super clear earlier, which is to say, when I had a back and forth with Bob, my thought was, so the real challenge is the statute says they must be excluded, period. But if it were clear that they could be included for the reasons of medical response, et cetera, but they cannot be taxed, and this is kind of going to your point, that they could be included, if the statute could be clarified to basically address the concern about taxation. And what Bob, actually I think I heard this from their legal counsel, clarified is that, if you had been Mendocino and you came with your contiguous parcel exemption, we may never have ended up in court. That's not what happened in Albion. And so for them, there are certain special districts that are leaning on taxation of these large timberlands, in their opinion, unfairly. And so I think I don't think I explained that as well as I could have earlier. And so to me, I think there could be a legal pathway here that would be a better precedent. And I just, in the short amount of time in the back, I didn't speak to Bob, it was all by email. There may be a solution here. I mean, I hate to wait 35 days, but I'm just thinking bigger picture. There may be a pathway. I don't know what your thoughts are, but so thanks for giving me that.
Thank you.
Well, to date, HRC's position has been fairly consistent that because of the statute, they don't want to be included within the district. And inclusion is a black and white thing. You're either included or you're not. And I think and their counsel's here, and I don't want to speak for them, I think they are concerned about the precedental effect that consenting to inclusion in this fire district may have on their properties throughout other areas of the state. So, I mean, if we did go 35 days and continued it, the discussion would need to be, will you consent in some way, shape, or form to inclusion in the district? And, their counsel can speak for them as to the prospects of doing that. I certainly can't speak for HRC on that.
So the idea, one of those ideas was brought up by Commissioner Nicolini, like included, but only taxed for medical and things like that. Or included, but not taxed at all. Or not included, right? So again, that's a negotiation that could occur between counsel for both parties in the 35-day period. Waiting 35 days isn't the end of the world if we can get this resolved in a way that benefits all parties. Because our volunteer fire departments are struggling like crazy. Nobody can deny that. And I appreciate what HRC has done by donating the land. And I think these Green Diamond, they all contribute in various ways. So that's the other avenue, not included, but just keep being a good neighbor, right? Which they already do on many levels. I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, the reconsideration request is to remove HRC's 16 parcels. It's not to remove all TPZ within the district.
Right.
So if the commission were to grant the reconsideration request, we would only exempt those 16 HRC parcels that are unimproved. And the annexation would move forward with, the other TPZ properties who aren't objecting to inclusion within the district. If we do a tax exemption, we can't do a tax, well, I mean, I don't want to speak for the district, but the district can't do a tax exemption just for the HRC parcels. We need to do it on a parcel use category. So in certain respects, moving forward with exempting HRC's properties and allowing those other property owners who aren't objecting to inclusion in the district is probably better from a revenue perspective in terms of the tax monies that may come in once the annexation is complete.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, yeah, that's a good point. So there are other TPZ parcels in this annexation that have not protested and are proposed to be taxed. So, yeah, the fairness issue comes up, I guess, at some level with all that. I don't know. It's good this is a special meeting, so this is all we have to discuss here. So, did you have something else you wanted to say?
Just that my impression from their legal counsel is that the statute would need to be changed, I think, for them. So 35 days is not going to, I think there could be a longer term legal pathway. But.
Yeah, because that's a state statute. That's not happening in 6 months. I mean, whatever.
I do want to state, though, that the state statute says upon the inclusion of a state responsibility area in a district, whether by formation or annexation, the state shall retain its responsibility for fire suppression and prevention on timbered brush and grass-covered lands. We're not disputing that.
Yeah.
So it does, the appellate court case did not address that. And it's very unclear. It says it right there in black, to me, very black and white.
Could you repeat your point again? Or?
That we can include. It says upon the inclusion of SRA lands in a fire district, whether by formation or annexation, which is why we're here today, the state shall retain its responsibility for fire suppression. So for wildland fire suppression, the district is not annexing for wildland fire protection jurisdiction. They're annexing for local jurisdiction. And so there is this distinction. And yes, they cannot tax for wildland. They're not taxing for wildland. They're taxing for local jurisdiction again. So it does go back to the taxation. I mean, I hear what you're saying. And everyone's saying about it is about the inclusion. It is about the inclusion at the court level, but ultimately it's about taxation as well.
Commissioner Nicolini.
And went up 10
Yeah.
minutes ago,
Yeah.
by the way. Just
Commissioner
point of
Nicolini.
order. I feel frustrated to have the chair talk a lot without coming back to the commissioners.
Okay.
So and I actually almost lost track of my point now. It's been so long, but I felt like I feel like I know where I stand at this point based on what I've heard from Neely, but I want to make sure I'm clear on this. Would the 35 days push us to the point where they'd miss a whole year of tax, or is that? And we don't have to wait 35 full days, right? We could meet again sooner than 35 days. We could meet. I mean, not that we all want to meet again in a few days, but we could. So first question, would the 35-day delay push them back a full another year?
It would be very close and likely, yeah, because the protest hearing takes 21-day noticing, and then we needed to bring the results of the protest hearing back to the commission by resolution, and then it would be very difficult to get it recorded by December 1st at the state.
Okay, in light of that, then I feel like I want to paraphrase and make sure I understand where everybody stands. I feel like I'm hearing from Colette that she wants to fight on principle. Now, and it's okay, it's all right. Well, because we're going to, and I think as LAFCo commissioners, we have to be realistic about this. We're going to keep coming up against this if we don't try to solve it. And so, but my sense is that this case with Nealon may not be the case to fight, and that maybe we'll have another case down the road, most probably. The only way we get to hear Ryan's frank opinion is to delay 35 days. And so I think I have clarity on where I stand and how we should move forward. Thank you for that.
Commissioner Bushnell.
Thank you. So if we I want to be clear, and this might be a Ryan question, but if we exclude those 16 parcels and move forward so that they can start their taxation, and then the county decides to take this up for legislation purposes and say that it gets through legislation and it changes, would Neyland then be, would they have to start another process to get those parcels back in?
Yeah, I would have to go through a new annexation process, but that would be available to them. And I do want to state too, I mean, property ownership changes. You know, HRC could purchase more parcels within the existing district or in the annexation area once this becomes part of the district. What happens then is the district supposed to pay to detach those lands? I mean, that's not addressed. There's also parcels that are sold. HRC could sell these commercial timberlands and they could be developed. You know, that would have to go through the whole land use process, but it's not a static, you know, these land use classifications are not static. And so in those cases, then they would need to be annexed. We really need to address this because it is a land use, it is a jurisdictional service challenge, and there's tremendous amount of TPZ land in existing fire districts. Mm-hmm. You look at Humboldt #1 fire district, you look at Arcata fire district, there's a lot of TPZ industrial timber company owned land in existing districts.
Or, or private landowners as well.
And private.
Yeah.
And so, and it's hard to define. How do you define? How do you exclude? So it is a huge issue and it does need to be addressed at the state level.
I have another question. Is HRC's attorney on, and do they want to have anything to say or contribute? Excuse me?
Public hearing.
Oh,
Yeah, once we go to the public, they'd have a chance to.
Oh, okay. I was asking when that would. Okay. I mean, I have a thought based on what Neyland has said, and my, you know, I'm like Troy. I think that, you know, I feel that they're losing and that this would be an uphill battle for them for $600. And in the meantime, they're kind of bleeding dry financially. And that's why I asked you guys, like, if you want to fight this, then I think that's the message you need to send to this commission. But if you're like saying we need money and we need to move forward and not miss that window, which is what you both said. And so I hear that as a commissioner. Thank you.
So let's go ahead and open the public hearing at this point and invite the public to come forward if they have any comments. And are you representing HRC?
No, I'm a landowner, TPZ land up in Neyland, so I just wanted to hear what you had to say. And I was a little confused about why the TPZ land would have, if you annex just the logging companies and not all TPZ land. I just wanted to hear what was to be said.
Okay, great. Thank you for being here. Okay. Somehow I assumed that maybe HRC was here today on Zoom or in the audience.
Yeah, we have Steve Johnson on Zoom, and his hand is raised and available to talk.
All right. You're on. Go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. My name's Stephen Johnson. I represent Humboldt Redwood Company. I also represented Mendocino Redwood Company in the case that was discussed and that was included in your packet. And I wrote a letter, which I believe that you probably have received in your packet. And first of all, I want to thank you for the thoughtful review of this issue. It is a relatively complex issue, and it has some contradictory points as far as how fire districts operate versus the nature of the law and how the law is written. I think it's very important, since this is a legal issue, that we look at the law. And on page 3 of my letter, it quotes the statute that's really being evaluated, which is section 13811 of the Health and Safety Code. And specifically, the statute provides that territory which has been classified as a state responsibility area may also be included in local districts, except for commercial forest lands, which are timbered lands declared to be in a state responsibility area. And that's the key portion of the statute that evaluates what lands are to be within a district and what lands are to be excluded from the district. It does not, that portion of the statute does not evaluate whether or not lands include structures, whether lands are included in residential type areas, or whether lands are included, or commercial timberlands are included in areas that have public highways or other public roads. It's very black and white. And the question becomes, commercial forest lands, which are timbered lands declared to be in a state responsibility area. And this whole district is in a state responsibility area, or at least the areas, the parcels that HRC owns are in a state responsibility area. And they are commercial forest lands. And all 17 parcels consist of commercial forest lands, including the ones with structures. And the second part of the statute goes on to say, upon the inclusion of a state responsibility area in a district, whether by formation or annexation, the state shall retain its responsibility for fire suppression. And then it goes on to state that the district shall be responsible for fire suppression and prevention for structures in the area. But the key phrase in this statute is upon the inclusion of a state responsibility area in a district. So under the first portion of the statute, the commercial forest lands should not be considered part of the district, and therefore it excludes them from the district, thereby not necessarily applying the second portion of the statute, which relates to structure fires. So effectively, all commercial forest lands, including those with structures potentially, should be excluded from the district. And I would like to mention the fact that this initial portion of the statute is very straightforward. There's no limitations or contingencies or evaluations to be made. The only evaluation to be made is whether they're commercial forest lands, which are timbered lands, and they're in a state responsibility area. It's very straightforward. And I'm well aware of the fact that this may be difficult for the fire districts. And I also am, feel for the fire districts as far as how they're going to operate and how this impacts them. However, this is a state law. And the state law that, in my opinion, fire districts and counties need to comply with. And I think the major issue that involves this law and the negative impacts that involve this law as it relates to counties and fire districts needs to be addressed either at the California legislature or with CAL FIRE. And when we had this trial on the Mendocino case, the number 2 CAL FIRE executive, Helge Ng, at the time, testified at the trial and testified specifically on behalf of CAL FIRE that commercial timberlands, such as those with Mendocino Redwood Company, are not part of local districts and should not be considered part of local districts. And CAL FIRE has an interest in retaining its jurisdiction. And this goes beyond Humboldt Redwood Company or timber companies in general. A lot of this has to do with the fact that CAL FIRE wants to retain jurisdiction over timberland, and that includes fire suppression, and it goes beyond taxes. There's other things that fire districts can do to impact landowners and impact the use of land in their district. And I think that CAL FIRE has an interest in retaining that jurisdiction and not transferring over control of that issue to local districts. And I would say that if there's an issue with response and reimbursement for responses within state responsibility areas, then that needs to be addressed with CAL FIRE. CAL FIRE reimburses fire districts after 3 hours was mentioned, and I know that there is a reimbursement that occurs on fires. And there's also a lack of reimbursement in certain situations. And I think that that's what needs to be addressed with CAL FIRE. However, the law is cut and dry as far as who should be included in the district. And as far as, Humboldt Redwood Company is concerned, they appreciate the benefit that they receive from these districts. That's why they make the donations that they have. They've donated significant, value with property, and they make continued donations, and they will continue to support the fire districts. And then they appreciate the fire districts, and they appreciate the communities that they operate in. However, they do not want to be illegally considered part of a district. And under the law, they should not be considered part of the district. In the MRC case, MRC did not challenge the tax. MRC challenged the fact that they were illegally taxed because they were not part of the district. And that's the same case here. They should not be part of the district in any capacity. And I think if you make them part of the district, there's a significant chance that's going to be challenged. And I also think that it's potentially going to be some significant pushback from CAL FIRE. So I would be happy to answer any of your questions that you have. And, we're open to working with the fire district to assist them how we can. And I know that Mr. Mertz, the president and CEO, has an interest in supporting them. However, he does not have an interest in having any HRC lands be considered part of the district. And all of his lands, all the lands are commercial timber lands, and they should not be part of the district.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Normally we have a 3-minute limit, but I didn't mention that, and I just thought it was important to be able to hear from you completely in regards to this issue. So I did allow for significantly more time. I want to bring it back to commissioners for any questions. Commissioner Nicolini.
Can I thank you for that, Johnson, for that comment. And you actually brought up a really good point. It isn't just taxation; it's also the district would be, their fire marshal would be then responsible for approving, your activities on your land. So yeah, that was really good. Thank you. Can I ask the woman who's not? Sorry, I forgot you didn't say your name, but do you mind if I ask you a question? So if we exclude these commercial large landowners from this, are you voluntarily okay with being added to the district?
No, I appreciate the fire, all the volunteer fire departments.
Yeah.
I don't want to come off like that, but I didn't like how they chose to vote for the special tax, and then after that was approved, do this annexation. And I didn't protest it because I didn't feel like I had a say, because I'm just one person out there, and I didn't say anything. And then I got this letter in the mail about Humboldt Redwood Company, and then for me, I have my own personal opinion. What was your question?
I guess are you going to also ask to be excluded?
I think it's too late for me to do that, isn't it? I didn't protest within the time frame.
No, the protest hearing has
This reconsideration request is specific to the request at hand, and so.
But another reconsideration.
The protest hearing process isn't for parcel by parcel protest.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the annexation as proposed in its entirety. So if these are excluded, we would be redoing the protest proceeding for the revised boundary, and landowners and registered voters could protest that annexation.
Let me ask a different question.
Okay.
Will you come back and sue LAFCo if your property is included?
I don't have time for that. I didn't have time to protest,
Yeah. No, thank you. And I appreciate your expression of support for the fire district. And I certainly understand your frustration at the sequence of events. And at our last meeting, I think I actually mentioned I wish the order had been reversed on that. Didn't I mention that last time? Does that ring a bell? That the annexation happened first and then the special tax. So I certainly understand your frustration.
That really bothered me. I didn't,
But,
yeah.
Well, but in spite of that, you're still supportive of the fire district. So that's great.
Are we putting words in your mouth?
I'm supportive of all the fire districts.
Yeah, I heard you say that.
I
Yeah.
personally haven't had the best relationship with the Neyland Fire District.
Okay.
And I love CAL FIRE.
All right. Thanks
But
for.
I have TPZ land, and I don't know. And I do have a problem with being charged if you're going to annex just the redwood companies. I don't think that's
Exclude the right,
Exclude the redwood
exclude them, and not exclude your TPC lands.
which is surrounded by them.
Right.
So, and I wonder what the cost is for. Nobody posed the question of what the cost is to exclude all the TPZ land in the Neeland. And that must be most of what they annexed, is either ag or TPZ land. And I was curious what that was.
Well, ag can be in TPC again.
Well, I mean, I think that all of the annexed area is either TPZ or
Ag.
rural ag. So I wonder what the difference is.
Yeah.
Not that $600, but actually the
Right.
bigger picture would be all TPZ land and what that cost was.
Thank you.
Commissioner Weinreb.
Yeah, I'm just curious. This is maybe a silly question, but is there hard financial records anywhere of CAL FIRE reimbursing the local fire districts?
Yes, absolutely.
Commissioner Bushnell.
Can I also add, most always, CAL FIRE doesn't release local fire departments till after that 3 hours. They do want to reimburse them. It's been my experience in my district and the rural lands that I am a supervisor of. They often keep them much longer than that 3 hours, and so that they can reimburse them. They do appreciate. And I'm not speaking out of turn because I've had conversations with CAL FIRE when they've responded to. I'll just reference to a fire that was in Alder Point recently, and they kept on the volunteer fire departments for 24 hours and then kept on their water tenders for 3 days. And so they so much appreciate the volunteer fire departments and really make sure that they get reimbursed.
Agreed. I do want to point out that HRC is asserting even the single parcel with structures should not be included within the district. And that, you know, CAL FIRE has jurisdiction for wildland fire protection. They do not have jurisdiction for structural fire protection unless there is a threat to the wildland, and that's when they get involved. Though, because of, again, the black and white reading from HRC's legal counsel, maybe recommend excluding it, though, just so there can be clarity that this impacts local jurisdictions with structures in the SRA. Let's exclude it.
So you're recommending that we not do 16, but do the whole 17,
Let's do
if we
17.
exclude.
Yeah.
Commissioner Bushnell.
So I would ask that if the Neeland fire was to respond to a structural fire, then they would bill out to HRC for their time. Is that correct?
If it's in their fee schedule.
Well, I believe it's in. Can I ask?
Yeah.
So
We've passed a couple different types of cost recovery resolutions, so we would legally be able to do that. Yeah.
okay. So if their structure caught on fire and you respond and CAL FIRE, regardless, because they don't fight structure, then you would bill out to HRC for that.
Have the ability to do that.
You have the ability to do that. Okay. Thank you.
And I just wanted to double check if there was any other public comment on Zoom that I'm not seeing, or nothing else. Okay, great. Commissioner Nicolini.
I think I saw Ryan's hand.
Okay,
I was just going to say, I agree with Colette's point. If part of the motivation is to avoid the cost, expense, and delay of potentially litigating it, it doesn't make sense to fight over that one parcel that is improved. So I would concur with that recommendation that we should exclude all 17 if that's the desire of the council or the commission.
Commissioner Bushnell.
I'm going to make a motion that we move forward excluding 17 parcels of HRC land with the annexation for Neeland Fire.
Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion by commissioners? Commissioner Benzanelli and then Nicolini.
Actually, never mind. I'll pass.
Okay.
I was writing my comment. So, I, along with the participant in the audience, do not like special rules for special people, especially when it comes to paying taxes. And I'm sure that it's really hard for everybody to pay their taxes. It's a bill you're writing like you pay for insurance. You may never use it, but you're happy that it's there when you need it. Large companies like timber company here have the means to pay lobbyists and lawyers to avoid paying taxes. And ultimately, I think that this is what this is about. I don't want to hold Neyland Fire up from their ability to collect their taxes because they need that to operate as well. So I'd like to support them. But I also feel like this is a strong arm move. I feel like there's foot dragging that's going to hurt them. And I feel like as a small LAFCo, we don't have the means to fight a lawsuit like this. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't continue to fight. And that would mean to garner the support from the Mendo LAFCo, from other small LAFCos that are affected like this, Cal LAFCO, CSDA. I'm going to a conference in about a week and a half. Our local legislators, our local board of supervisors, and to take this fight up, add it to a legislative platform, see that there is state inconsistencies, and fight it.
Thank you. Commissioner Bushnell?
I just thank you for your statement. I wanted to clarify, though, in doing this, then it would open the protest time again, and if someone else is not happy with, explain that, Colette, if you would.
My understanding is that according to the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act for reconsideration requests, that once this reconsideration request is considered, that another reconsideration request that's substantially similar cannot be filed.
Commissioner Nicolini?
I just want to clarify one thing, since I originally brought up the fee for services just for folks who aren't involved in volunteer fire departments. Is the reality is it's not a great structure because you spend a lot of time not responding. You're only getting paid for the moment you're responding, but you're doing a lot. You're paying the electrical bill, you're training, you're putting fuel in. I mean, it's not the best model. Just so we're on the same page. And then secondly, when I brought up my concern last time about the order of events, the taxation, increase in tax, and then annexation, I think I was told by Neyland that there was a lot of support amongst the landowners, and you guys did a lot of outreach, and it was cool. So I just want to, I mean, is it fair to say that, you obviously have some landowners who don't feel that way, but do you feel comfortable in not having all the other landowners come back and have issue with what we're doing today, which is basically, as Commissioner Manzanelli said, responding to threat of litigation from one large landowner, but not all the small landowners who can't litigate us. Can you comment on that?
I can't, I haven't, so yes, to underscore your point, we started with annexation, and we have about 80,000 acres of ranch lands in the annexation area, and they came out very strongly saying, we can't support your special tax as it is. We would protest annexation. So that was why we passed the tax first, to create a more equitable tax structure for the larger response area.
And so that they'd have clarity of what annexation meant. Okay.
So they would have clarity, and also so that we'd have this contiguous parcel exemption that would not unfairly by parcel tax these larger landowners. And we did this modeled off of Bridgeville, which has a kind of a more similar property ownership structure. So that's why the order was as it was. At which point we proceeded with the annexation, and I fielded a bunch of calls from those landowners who have expressed their support with this contiguous parcel exemption. That said, and Ryan may disagree with me here, but I feel like the term commercial forest lands is not well defined. And that is one of the biggest challenges I think Humboldt, Mendocino, Trinity counties are going to have with the statute as it's written. Because if you exclude all TPZ, that's a big challenge for special districts of all kinds. Does that answer your question?
I think so. So a lot of the landowners we're talking about, say, live on TPC zone land, but it's not actually commercially harvested land.
There's a lot that is commercially harvested. There's a lot that's been converted to cannabis cultivation. There's a lot for us that's AE TPZ.
Yeah.
So is that commercial forest lands? If it's only 30% forest, it's just not defined.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Then can I ask one quick question of council? So are we walking into a quagmire right now if we exclude these 17 parcels but don't address TPZ in general for this district annexation?
I mean, the one thing, the annexation would be complete, right? The one thing that the district could face is what Mendocino faced, which is a tax refund action in the future, making the same arguments that Mendocino Redwood Company made, that they can't be taxed because they couldn't have been included from the start. You know, and look, I wasn't involved in that case. I think there's some procedural defenses and other things that could have been asserted. But ultimately, we have an appellate court decision that, you know, on the refund action, on the tax action, you know, held that they can't be taxed because they couldn't have been included.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, one more question. Should we consider delaying so that Neyland could find out if there's any other landowners out there who really disagree with their land being included in the district and its TPZ? I mean, is that worth doing? Because, or are you willing to face that and have to refund taxes down the road from landowners that are taxed, in their opinion, unfairly?
We've done a ton of outreach.
Okay.
We've done a lot of outreach. I feel like we would know at this point.
Well, then should we just exclude this woman's parcels? Let me just be really frank.
I also want to
mean-
note that we did do a 21-day mailed notice to registered voters and landowners about this reconsideration
Okay.
request. So,
The window's closed on it.
well,
Yeah. Sure.
there
Yeah.
was notification.
Which is why she's here, right? Sorry, I forget. I still don't have your name.
No, she didn't respond during that 21 days.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
She said.
Oh, gotcha. Right.
I personally feel comfortable going forward. I don't think that there's going to be a significant.
Okay. Thank you.
That could change as this law evolves, but
Yeah. Thank you. All right. That's it. I have nothing else.
And did you have a clarifying comment? I saw you raise your hand, but come on up, please.
I'm sorry. This is a little hard for me, Lindsay. And I mean, our kids went to school together. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
trying to cause them problems, but I didn't, like I said, I didn't feel like we had one text back and forth. I don't know that qualifies for huge outreach. And I didn't, you're right, I didn't bother to complain in the beginning because I just thought I was one measly landowner. And the way I read the complaint process, it seemed like it said something about like 20% of the people needed to complain for it to be considerable. And we're not talking about enough parcels really for there to be 20% of complaints. So I was too busy working and raising my kids to feel like it was going to make a difference until I saw this letter from HRC, and I was like, well, wait a second, what the heck?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and it is a struggle, right? The fire departments need support, so I don't want to be the wrench that doesn't cost them.
Thank
I
you.
just came to listen, honestly.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. So seeing. You got a hand up? Commissioner Benzanelli, thank you.
Did we answer Commissioner Nicolini's question? Can we include her parcel even though she did not respond in time?
The commission is considering a particular reconsideration request, and so we need to keep the bounds of what we grant in terms of relief to the relief requested.
That's enough.
Okay.
Okay, seeing no other commissioners, I'll go ahead and weigh in. Commercial timberland is really ill-defined. You can have non-TP's land and be doing commercial timber operations. They don't just occur on HRC and Green Diamond's lands or SPI. They occur all over the place, in particular because CAL FIRE has come up with a whole lot of exemptions, like the 0 to 150 foot exemption, the 150 to 300 foot exemption, that allows small landowners to harvest their timber through thinning projects to reduce fuels for, protecting their homes or any number of things, and even sell those logs as long as they have that exemption filed and they have a licensed timber operator or an LTO perform the services. I'm an LTO, and I just sold some logs off my land, which is residential estates zoning this last summer. So the idea of commercial is really, I think it always used to be thought of as just the big timber corporations. But that's changed dramatically. So there is that. I think no matter what we do here today, there is still this quagmire that exists around this statute and around the changing realities in our communities, around fire district struggles, and around commercial definitions and all these other kinds of things. Did I hear correctly that Arcata Fire District and Humboldt Bay 1 or whatever also have a lot of TPZ lands in their districts, including HRC and Green Diamond lands that are in their districts and being taxed. So that, to me, brings up a whole other set of issues that are like, well, how did it happen there? But suddenly, and did that not set a precedent of some kind that, it was allowed, it wasn't protested, it wasn't objected to, or maybe it was, I don't know, but nobody's brought that up. And yet suddenly there's this problem just with Neeland, trying to do this. So I'm not real excited about approving the request, frankly speaking, from a procedural perspective. I don't think it solves our problem in terms of this quagmire, frankly, whatsoever. But it puts this huge hardship on Neeland of not being able to move forward and collect the taxes that they desperately need to be able to run their incredible volunteer organization. Right, so I'm really torn, to be honest, frankly. Commissioner Bushnell.
Thank you. I additionally, that's why I asked the question, because if, with knowing that there are TPZ lands and larger lands that are in districts that weren't contested is what it came down to, I think that Commissioner Benzanelli has her point that it needs to be fought through legislation, through the state, because it's a state law. And my consideration is based on what you're saying, that you feel this is going to be detrimental to you if we have to drag this out for 1 to 2 to 3 years if we get into a lawsuit. And that's where I'm standing. That doesn't mean that the fight to change legislation to really define what SRAs are or zoning issues, it's really a zoning issue, needs to be defined through legislation. That is clearly a problem. And in rural areas, not only Humboldt County, not only Trinity, not only Mendocino, but Modoc has the same, Shasta has the same. There is definitely legislation that needs to be happen around this issue. But my consideration and making that motion was for your consideration to keep your fire department funded.
Commissioner Nicolini.
I said I had nothing else to add, but I just want to say that if we do consider trying to change, look at a legislation standpoint, I think the zone of service is the key to hang our hat on, that we try to change it so that we can, small districts can charge just for medical and structure and not for wildland fire. I think that would make sense. And then my second point is, Colette, I want to make a commitment to you. If you bring the same issue to us with a district who wants to fight because it makes sense for them, I will fight with you. So.
Ditto.
Okay, any other comments, questions?
So I do want to note that we have a motion on the floor to adopt Resolution 2506, making determinations and approving the request for reconsideration for the Sphere of Influence Amendment and annexation of Goodwill Response Areas to the Neeland Fire Protection District with amendments and conditions, and rescinding Resolution number 2503. We're including all 17 parcels, so we need to make note of that and make a change to the resolution accordingly. And so with that, so moved.
And that was your motion. I heard you say all those things.
I said all of that.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, we've had a lively discussion. It's good it was a special meeting. No further comments. We'll go ahead and go to a vote. Do we need to do a roll call on this? Yeah, please. Crystal, could we do a roll call vote, please?
Yes, we are voting to adopt Resolution 25-06 as stated by E.O. Sanchi. Okay. Commissioner Bushnell.
Yes.
Commissioner Matthews.
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly. Oh, sorry. Absent. My bad. That was my bad. Commissioner Nicolini.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Benzanelli.
No.
Commissioner Weinreb.
Abstain.
And Chair Madrone.
No. 3
Thank
to
you.
3. 3, 2, 1. It does pass. 3, 2, 1.
No, it doesn't.
Crystal, can you read the final vote?
Yeah.
Yes, so final vote, we had
2, 1.
Commissioner Madrone, no. Commissioner Bushnell, yes. Commissioner Matthews, yes. Commissioner Nicolini, yes. Commissioner Benzanelli, no. Commissioner Weinreb, abstain. For 3 yeses, 2 nos, and 1 abstain.
So our policy says that a majority voter approval is required for these types of actions. So a 4 yes would be required.
So at this point, can we consider other motions?
If the motion dies, then yes, you're able to take on another motion.
Okay, so that motion died.
I'd like to move that we extend this for 35 days for further consideration.
And would that include setting up a closed session to discuss this?
That would be part of my proposal.
Perhaps at the very beginning of the meeting before we dive into the issue.
Second.
Okay.
Can I stress that this is going to delay their taxation for 2 years?
But can we expedite the 35? I mean, we can.
Doesn't matter. It's not going to work for them.
Special meeting? Another one?
Yeah, we can do that. I'm sorry. That's so bad.
It's worth fighting for.
I understand.
And for the record, can I? Sorry.
Please.
I was conflicted too. I mean, yeah.
All right, so motion by Nicolini and seconded by Bushnell to continue the matter for 35 days and hold a special meeting, and staff will work on scheduling that with you as soon as possible. I mean, the other option is to wait till the September meeting and hold a closed session as part of our regularly scheduled meeting, but we can try to do it. So we'll work on scheduling.
Commissioner Bushnell.
I don't want to put extra time on staff, and at this point, it's not going to make the deadline. And so, do you think that it would be like, would you be able to get it together before the September meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So we can do a closed session as part of the September regular meeting.
I mean, and what I'm asking is, do you think you could get a special meeting together before September
16th, yeah.
the
Yes.
16th?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I hope that commissioners recognize the potential burden on Neeland if it's delayed a year or more, and that we all do our best to try and meet a special meeting agenda schedule. But, you know, we got Labor Day coming in and all the rest of it here. So Commissioner Bushnell and then Nicolini.
I just want to recognize and confirm with Colette that she does not believe that this will get done in time for not to have a delay, and that it will be a delay for 1 to 2 years for Neeland Fire. Is that what you said?
We would be extremely tight. Yes. So I don't like, we will look at the schedule and be, crunching the days of the month through here in December 1st and trying to fit in the this extension as well as the protest hearing as well as getting it filed before December 1st.
And I just want to make sure that I'm clear that had we denied reconsideration, they also would have likely been delayed, right?
Again, it's very tight. But we could turn around, get the 21-day noticing out for the protest hearing. Yeah, hold it by October and then wrap up the annexation proceedings and likely get it submitted by
So
December.
those two courses of action, they'll have an equally likely chance of being delaying their ability to generate revenue for 2 years.
The
Okay.
only thing that would have worked was the one we just voted no on.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I don't think this is the end of these kinds of discussions by any means. I think we would all agree there's so many more bigger issues here. With that, we should take a vote on this motion on the table for the continuation. I believe that's where we're at. So again, should we do a roll call vote on that?
Yes.
Okay. Crystal, please.
Okay, we're voting to continue the hearing to a future date within 35 days. So we have Commissioner Nicolini,
Aye.
Commissioner Benzanelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Matthews,
Yes.
Commissioner Bushnell,
No.
Commissioner Weinreb,
Yes.
and Chair Madrone.
Yes.
That motion carries.
Okay, with that, we have item 6, business items. There's none. No. Number 8, informational continuing items. No executive officers report. No written correspondence. So I believe we are adjourned at this point. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.